Hello and welcome everyone for joining us at SMPTE Hollywood's next meeting, which is now. And we are thrilled to have the meeting on Media Technologists Meets TikTok. I just want to thank everybody that's helped us here. Chris Alvarez, our tech guru, Joanne Kim, a co-producer, and of course, I'd like to introduce Kylie Pina, who will moderate and also really produced and generated this event. So thank you for all the panelists. Thank you for all the attendees. And Kylie, I give it to you.
Thanks, Linda. Hi, everybody. My name's Kylie, and I am a section manager for the Hollywood section of SMPTE. Welcome if this is your first SMPTE event. We've been doing these online, and it's not quite the same in person, but it does give us the benefit of having some guests that are not in Hollywood, which is the case for everyone speaking tonight, except for me, I guess. So let me share my screen. I cannot multitask even now. Oh my gosh. Okay. Got it. Like Linda said, I co-organized this meeting with Joanne Kim, and I'm really excited to introduce Media Technologists to TikTok. A little bit of housekeeping before we start. Let me know in the chat if you can't see my screen. If you are struggling, this should override for you, but just in case, if you've had any weird settings or you've made some changes, you can go out to the view options at the top and make some adjustments so you can see things better. Also, at the bottom, you'll see Q&A and chat. Feel free to throw stuff in the chat. If you have any questions, go ahead and put those in the Q&A box, because we'll be getting to those at the end. So I wanted to set the stage for you a little bit on exactly what TikTok can do. And this session is going to be really interesting to you, whether you are really involved with this and you're on TikTok, or this is all kind of brand new to you. I asked a couple members of our SMPTE community to put together a sizzle reel that shows the diversity of TikTok. So I'm going to play that for you real quick. I saw in the chat there was one mention of a black screen, so that's part of the fun of all this remote stuff. Did most people see it? Is this working okay? All right, good. If Julia can see it, that's fine. Thank you so much to Julia Gross, who's a relatively recent graduate and an editor based out of Montana, and Lexi Jackson, a student and aspiring music supervisor for that quick sizzle. So cool to have people from all over helping out with this presentation. Great job curating some good TikToks that sort of show the diversity that TikTok has to offer, and to Lexi for the music. Please connect with them and help them in their careers. They're both awesome, and they're both here, I see. All right, so I'm going to walk you through some of the basics of TikTok to lay some foundations for this presentation. First, TikTok has over 600 million active users worldwide. TikTok is technically the 7th largest social media platform, but that doesn't take into account that TikTok has a separate contingent inside China, which is another 600 million, which puts their user base at about 1.29 billion. The app has been downloaded over 2 billion times, and it was launched just in 2016. 52% of US TikTok users are between the ages of 10 and 29. By comparison, I saw Facebook called the social media app of choice for seniors, which was really difficult for me to read. Only 7% of TikTok is over the age of 50. Users are spending almost an hour a day on the app. This is comparable to other apps, but it's starting to encroach into television watching. The primary audience of TikTok is watching about 90 minutes of TV a day, but when you see where they're watching their TV, most of that is not in the traditional sense. 90% of the users on TikTok are actually active on a daily basis, which is crazy. 75% of apps are downloaded and never accessed again. So TikTok actually has roots in all kinds of things, dance videos, education videos, lip syncing, music. And it all started with an app called, or a company called ByteDance, who was more into educational videos, and then Musical.ly, which was more into lip sync. ByteDance acquired Musical.ly, and then they created TikTok, which is what it's known internationally, and Douyin inside China. These apps, they tend to be vilified because they seem to be painted as these fronts for data capture, but I wanted to put a face on it. The story behind these are people that are just really interested in self-expression and media and entertainment, and they wanted to evolve this, and they really studied their audience. And as of last year, ByteDance TikTok had a $100 billion market cap. So the power of TikTok comes from having so much available to the user to access. There are facial tracking effects, color grading treatments, but it's also important to realize that there are sounds and songs and effects that are essentially available to anybody. It's like you basically have access to a library. When you look at a TikTok, you can see the source sound, you can see what effects they use, and then you can just basically tap on it, and then you're using it too. So people are creating original content, and then people are able to quickly iterate on that and create new videos that have different meaning from that. This creates ease of access, equal access for so many kinds of creators and different methods of thought. And it creates a place where things can be created, mixed, and remixed at an incredible pace. So this might make people say, oh, we're just giving away this stuff for free. Like anybody can make a great video. But I found this video online, and I thought it was a great video to show to illustrate that maybe this isn't so true.
Let's see how fast I can do one. My trick also is to hold down the red button and let go when you want to stop filming. That is the best way to get it slick. Okay, let's go. Ignore my mum.
So there's a lot of thought that goes into planning these out. And this is the tweet that I found with the video, and I'm finding this really relatable. There is an incredible talent in comedy and timing and vision and performance needed to actually make one of these good. It's sort of like TikTok makes it so anybody can become, make a great video, but not everyone necessarily will. So just going back a couple more points that are interesting to give you further context for TikTok, I wanted to show you some of the key moments in history. So this video was one of the initial viral videos on TikTok in 2018, and this inspired a huge uptick in US-based users. This video might be the reason why TikTok became such a phenomenon in the US. It's called Gummy Bear Adele. Never mind, I'll find someone like you. watched this over and over. Okay. And it's silly and it's just, it's lo-fi, but it captures something that resonates with people and they want to make something with that. So in February 2019, this rapper Lil Nas X released Old Town Road, a song. He was unemployed, he dropped out of college, he bought this country sounding beat from a Dutch composer and he created this song and he released it on TikTok. He was completely unknown. It exploded and hundreds of people made videos using the song. They were dancing, they made comedy bits, they made lip syncs. The song was remixed and released with Billy Ray Cyrus. It hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 for 19 consecutive weeks. The rapper was the most nominated act at the Grammys that year, and he won several. And it became the fastest song ever awarded diamond certification and went platinum 14 times over. And he signed a record deal with Columbia. This is a reel of highlights from this time when people were remixing Old Town Road. So I'm just going to play you one little clip from that.
I got the horses in the bag, horse stock is attached. Head is matted black, got the bushes black to match. Riding on a horse, you can whip your Porsche.
And it's not just random influencers that are remixing this content. Brands have also found a place in this. So on the left is a well-known internet personality, Trey Clements, and on the right is Lush, the makeup brand. And so here is the original. This was created by Trey. This is his audio. He's making light of intrusive thoughts while driving.
What if I just... No. No. Well, no. No.
So that audio then became available to use, and Lush remixed it and changed the meaning to lip sync to it to make fun of the fact that their bath bombs look delicious and people want to eat them.
What if I just... No. Well, no. No.
So that gets huge engagement. And of course, another point in TikTok history, users claiming responsibility for trolling a political campaign by organizing themselves quickly across TikTok.
All you have to do is give your phone number and you can get 2 tickets. So I got 2 tickets, but I totally forgot that I have to pick every individual piece of land off of my room floor and then sort them by size, so I can't make it for Friday. Oh, wow.
So, that caused some fresh drama. There's definitely an uptick of TikTok headlines in the last year, especially last summer. You can see there was a former Disney exec that became CEO, and 3 months later, he resigned. You can't talk about TikTok without bringing up all these headlines around it too. It's been in the news a lot for all kinds of reasons. And this session is not making an assessment or an opinion about the ethics or the privacy, or is this safe, is it not? But I did want to point out this headline I thought was really interesting. Should you delete TikTok from your phone? The app is treated as suspect because of its Chinese ownership, but the way it gathers data is no different from other tech companies. Just interesting food for thought. So before I hand it off to our first presenter, I thought it'd be fun to just show you a few seconds from a few different videos to show you the evolution of a meme and to get this stuck in your head. So this clip is from SNL, and it was making fun of Gen Z and TikTok and their aesthetic and musical taste. And it's really ridiculous.
Yeet, yeet, skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt, 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 roll up, yeet, drop that, yeet, skirt that, yeet, pop that, yeet, hey, you never loved me, Mom.
So TikTok loved that, of course, and it entered the churn of viral content with hundreds, if not thousands, of memes generated, including dance videos.
Love me. Yeet, yeet, skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt,
and comedy bits.
Yeet, yeet, skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt, skirt. Yeet, yeet, skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt, skirt, skirt. Pop that, yeet, skirt that, yeet, pop that, yeet, hey, 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 hey.
Of course, no meme really becomes a meme until it has an acoustic cover.
Skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt, 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 roll up, yeet, drop that, yeet, skirt that, yeet, pop that, yeet, hey, 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 stop now.
So there's an incredible talent on TikTok, and there's a really interesting audience out there. And it has a unique aspect to it of remix culture where anything can enter this and be remixed and iterated on. And that's sort of what we want to turn to here. So let's look at the theater, the science, the educational, and the performance aspects of TikTok now that have thrived in this mix of remix culture and original creation. So first, I'd like to hand it off to our first presenter, Darrion Nguyen, the STEM influencer behind Lab Shenanigans. For the last few years, Darrion has worked as a research technician where he's often found himself in the lab working late into the night, and he'd mesh late night into creative sessions where he'd make relatable science and research videos under the pseudonym Lab Shenanigans. Darrion has a bachelor's in biochemistry and a bachelor's in theater, and his videos have over 14 million likes. And he's been called the Bill Nye of millennials. So let me go ahead and stop sharing and hand it off to Darrion. And as a reminder, please put your questions in the Q&A box, not the chat box, so they don't get lost.
Hey
All
guys.
right.
All right, I'm gonna share my screen. All right, here we go. As Kylie mentioned, my name is Darrion Nguyen. And I'll be talking about how I use TikTok to visualize science concepts. Brief background, I graduated from the University of Texas in 2017. I studied biochemistry. I worked in a lab, in a research lab for 3 years during my undergrad. So here's junior year me. And then here's also me in a play my sophomore year. And then after I graduated the University of Texas, I worked as a research technician at Texas Children's Hospital from 2017 to 2020. Here's a little nerdy picture of me after I sectioned a mouse brain and then I stained it with some antibodies, and that's where all the colorful images or colorful specs come in. And I worked as a research tech for 3 years, and I worked really hard during the day. And before I left lab at night, I would just make these silly videos in lab. And at first, my content started out as just me making very silly videos on Instagram, and that's where the name Lab Shenanigans came from. So my first initial content was just me literally fooling around in lab, no educational content whatsoever. And then once I gained a large enough platform, I kind of felt like Spider-Man, like with great responsibility, with like this large platform. I need to do something useful with it. And I mean, some can argue that making like very entertaining content is like very impactful, but in the words of Ariel, like I wanted more. I wanted to be more impactful. And so I decided to I decided to make my content a little bit more educational. So this was like summer 2019, and I wanted to experiment with my content a bit. How can I make my videos more educational? So then I turned to TikTok, and here's just like a little screenshots of like my social media accounts that I started out on. And after, I guess, making my content more educational, there was just a huge influx of followers. And so I began to take my social media account, Lab Shenanigans, more seriously. And so for those that don't know, like, or I guess aren't too familiar with TikTok, it's like a social media app where you make about like 30-second videos. And there are like a lot of different trends, like dance trends. And the more popular trends are like getting audios, pop culture audios, and then lip syncing to those audios and applying the lyrics or the words to those audios to a relatable situation or scenario. So here's just like here's an example of one of my videos. And actually, I'm gonna go over to my browser because when when Kylie was showing the video of Trey Clements, I was like, wait, I actually use that audio for one of my videos. So let me show you guys that video. So I try to use an audio clip to portray like a science concept. In this case, I'm explaining like a virus, like when it should become active.
No. Well, no. No.
So a latent virus is like a virus that isn't really active, but once it's stressed, then it can become active, and then you can begin to like develop some symptoms in your body. And then, funny enough, you also showed the audio clip or the video of the SNL skit, and I also use that clip. So this is when the 2 doses of the coronavirus vaccine meet inside my body. Let me refresh this real quick.
Yeet, yeet, skirt, yeet, yeet, skirt, 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 roll up, yeet, drop that, yeet, skirt that, yeet, pop that, yeet, hey.
And then going back to my presentation. So those are the general types of videos that I make where I personify certain molecules in a science concept, and I try to make it digestible or easy enough for the follower or the viewer to understand. And then I'll just show you 2 more videos real quick. So optimize, okay.
Why do we keep doing that? Like, it's going this way. Like, no, I'm fucking trying to straighten it down. This shit keep going like, whoop, like, no, go do.
And then last video,
what?
This one, when DNA viruses enter the nucleus. This is how the nucleus reacts.
Wanda! What are you doing? Wanda, how did you get in here?
Listen to me. This whole thing is about vision.
Get out of my house!
Hayward was trying to bring him down.
Talk to me about that. I don't want to hear about it. Control.
So I just wanted to like go over my my thought process that goes behind each video. And I'm actually very impressed with the video that Kylie showed earlier, how that one content creator just like made that video quickly in the spot. I actually take about 15-20 minutes of preparation where I will make sure that the science concept, I'll like do the background research for that particular video, and then I'll like have a transcript of the audio, and then make sure that my lip syncing is very precise to the audio. So I'm gonna show you like the thought process that goes behind making a video. So here's an audio clip from the show Dance Moms. And I love choosing audio clips that are very dramatic, very chaotic. Like that's just the type of energy that I vibe with. So here's a transcript to this audio.
I didn't push you. I moved you out of the way because you wouldn't move when I asked you to move 3 times. So I walked through you.
So you're saying you could not have walked around this?
You were all in a line in front of the door.
When I hear this type of audio, I try to pinpoint areas where I think, okay, like this is definitely applicable to a concept or a biology concept. Okay, so for example, this audio, there are 2 areas that stick out to me. I moved you out of the way and you were all in a line in front of the door. All right, so brainstorming process. What are some processes that involve something moving? And for me, like these are the low-hanging fruits, like, okay, mRNA exiting the nucleus, transcribing mRNA, enzymes breaking down a molecule, and so on. Next part of the quote, you were all in a line in front of the door. All right, so bringing back that list, what process involves something lining up? So I narrowed down my idea to chromosomes moving during mitosis, meiosis. All right, so biology 101. What is mitosis? So mitosis is when the cells divide and they split up, and mitosis consists of these different stages: interphase, prophase, where the chromosomes pair up, then metaphase, the chromosomes line up at the equator, and then the mitotic spindle fibers form. And then during anaphase, the sister chromatids are pulled apart. And then during telophase and cytokinesis, the cell pinches to form 2 identical daughter cells. All right, bringing back the quote, what part of this process involves something lining up? All right, metaphase. Cool. So then after pinpointing the type of concept that I want to portray, I will rearrange the transcript to kind of like, I write it out in a script. So this is like the original format. I'll rewrite it like this. So the mitotic spindle fibers will say, I didn't push you. I moved you out of the way because you wouldn't move when I asked you to move 3 times. So I walked through you. And then the chromosomes argue back and they say, so you're saying you could not have walked around me. And then the fibers say, no, like you were all in a line in front of the door. So then the next part is to film. And for me, filming is not that quick. Like maybe I just am very meticulous, but I try to make sure that the expressions matches the audio. So I will find the original source of the audio and I'll watch the video to see how they're expressing their emotions. And then the second part is like memorizing the lines to make sure that I like have my lip sync is very on point. And then the next step is to really play around with like the camera angles, the transitions, utilizing TikTok's effects. And so here is the final product. Let me turn on this optimize. Okay. So here is the final video.
I didn't push you. I moved you out of the way because you wouldn't move when I asked you to move 3 times. So I walked through you.
So you're saying you could not have walked around it?
You were all in a line in front of the door.
So this was actually one of the first videos that I made on TikTok, 2019. And this video was kind of an experiment to see if people would like the pivot, the change in my content, because like I said before, it was all entertainment. And this was my first, I guess, more educational video. And I really wasn't expecting people to like it or find it funny. It was just more so for me to just play around. And so I made this video, I closed the app, and when I opened the app, like 3 or 4 days later, I found out that I had gained 19,000 followers based off this video alone. And then that made me realize like people like this stuff. Like, you know, when you get on a social media app, the last thing you want to do is learn to learn. You want to just de-stress, decompress, get away from school. And so I felt like maybe like I'm on to something. And a lot of comments and DMs started flooding in like, oh my gosh, like I never really understood this process. And you just gave me a better way to remember this, or you gave me a really good visualization. And so I've been just doing that ever since. And my platform has just grown exponentially. So what started out as like 19,000 followers grew to 500K followers. And I've been just doing this for the past couple of years, and people, a lot of STEM students really appreciate this. And they messaged me and have told me I've been doing better in my classes because I'm beginning to understand these concepts. And so I never thought that TikTok could be a powerful, useful educational tool, but I don't know, like a lot of my followers have been reassuring me that they are learning from my content. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. And,
I didn't push you.
So thank you so much for listening. And if you guys want to watch more of my content, follow me on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. It's lab_shenanigans, and Facebook, it is lab_shenanigans. And you can also visit me on my website, labshenanigans.com. Thank you.
Thank you, Darrion. That was awesome. I wish you'd been around when I had to take chemistry in particular, because I did terrible because I couldn't visualize anything. If only TikTok had existed in 2001.
Thank you so much.
I am going to hand it off to our next presenters, and then Darrion will be back at the end to answer some questions. I've got quite a few questions to ask them about their content creation and what they think all this means for the future. But first, let's hear from, let me share my screen. Too much happening. Oh my gosh, okay. So let's hand it over to the editors of Ratatouille, the TikTok musical. So this is another meme that evolved the remixing audio and original content on TikTok and became a real musical. that David Bengali, Kate Ducey, and Lacey Erb worked on to piece together to make it into something that actually felt like a Broadway musical. The interesting thing is that their backgrounds are not traditionally what you'd see at SMPTE. Their backgrounds are in theater, theatrical performance, lighting, and things like that. So it'll be really interesting to hear their insights in all this. So I will hand it off to you all.
Hello, I'm David.
Hi, I'm Kate. Hi, I'm Lacey.
So as Kylie said, we are projection designers for theater. So most of the work we do or had been doing up until the pandemic struck was work on live events on Broadway and in opera and in various formats around the US or outside of the country. And when COVID happened, our industry was hit very hard. Like everything shut down because everything depends on people coming together to see a show in a theater. So rehearsals were unsafe, audiences were unsafe, and everyone was sort of out of work for a while. And over the course of the summer, the late part of the summer and early part of the fall, there was a trend that came up on TikTok, centered around this the Disney Pixar film Ratatouille. So we'll do a little screen share here. So actually stepping ahead from our title slide here, the first thing that happened was a TikTok user, Emily Jacobson, whose handle is ejax, made this TikTok.
Remy, the ratatouille, the rat of all my dreams. I praise you, my ratatouille. May the world remember your name.
And that was it. That was the beginning of this trend that then people started to jump onto and remix. So one of the folks who jumped onto this was Daniel Mertzlept, who is a young composer who posts Broadway style music.
Remy, the ratatouille, the rat of all my dreams. I praise you, oh ratatouille. May the world remember your name.
So this, of course, is a totally fictional idea that this was going to be a Broadway show. It just sort of happened as a concept on TikTok, and then people started running with this, and folks would either re-record or lip sync to audio, or they'd write their own version of a song, or 15-second clip from a song, or they would design the program for the imaginary production, or they would design the puppets for the imaginary production, or the scenery for the imaginary production. And the folks who were doing this were sort of a combination of young creators, particularly in the age group Kylie mentioned, who are excited about Broadway, excited about theatrical production, but may never have worked in any of those forums, and people who work in the theater, who work on Broadway, who work in theater across the US, who were out of work and were like, well, I have these skills. What am I going to do with them right now while I'm waiting for shows to come back? So then...
My submission to the Ratatouille musical. Yes. This is a song for Remy's dad. Don't waste your whiskey.
So you can kind of go on a deep dive on TikTok or in other ways that you might find content to see all the kinds of hundreds of things people made on this theme. So then what happened was Seaview Productions, you saw credited on our first slide, had an idea. They're like, well, everyone thinks this could be a cool Broadway musical. Why don't we make it a Broadway musical? So their lead producer, Greg Noble, called up Disney Theatrical and said, you should know what's happening with this property. People are really excited about it. There's a whole demographic out here that you could tap into. And they basically said, we're not going to do anything with this right now, but you should feel free to go ahead as long as you can get it done by January 1st. That's your deadline. And by this point, it was I don't know, late November, early December. So from that point on, what happened was that they started, CView Production started collecting people to take these concepts that had been generated in a totally decentralized way on TikTok and turn it into a Broadway musical production in the form of virtual theater. So since, you know, we still couldn't bring people into theaters, we're going to bring theater to the people and bring production tools to the cast, which has been a lot of going on over the last several months in the theater community. So they got together with Dan Mertzliff and had him compose an entire musical using songs, many of the songs that people had written on TikTok, like 15-second versions of. He's like, I'm going to write the whole thing. And they brought in Lucy Moss, the director of Six, the musical that's been on the West End and meant to be on Broadway, but you know, got stopped due to the pandemic. And the Broadway Sinfonetta to record a full orchestra score, and a number of orchestrators and the writers, Michael Foley and Patrick Breslin, and Michael Breslin and Patrick Foley. And then eventually they realized, well, this is a video production. It's going to be delivered online. It's going to stream on TodayTix. And so that's when they got us involved to say, can you help us make, we don't know what this is. We know we're going to get a number of well-known Broadway and television actors to participate individually from their homes, to film themselves performing these songs, performing these scenes. And we need a group of editors to put this together. You're going to have 5 days to make an hour-long TV special to broadcast on the internet, working within the TikTok style and sort of honoring and elevating the work of all of these TikTok creators whose work has been brought to the attention of Broadway artists. So we're not going to show you, the whole thing at the moment. I think we'll spend more of our time on questions and discussion, but here's just a little clip where one of the songs that a TikToker wrote called I Knew I Smelled a Rat, imagined to be sung by Chef Skinner, if anyone knows the animated film, was performed by Mary Testa, a fabulous Broadway performer, with a dance number in the middle where we only had 2 people in the dance corps, but we sort of leaned on the TikTok clone filter as this idea of we have a dance company. So here we are, a little clip from this.
Working underneath your hand. You have no talent of your own. I knew I smelled the rat. Dance break. Was working underneath your hand. I clearly knew it all along. They think you're great, I'll prove them wrong. Look out, good Queenie Skinner's where it's at. I knew I smelled it. I knew I smelled it. I knew I smelled. I knew I smelled. I knew I smelled. My intuition's never wrong. I knew I smelled a rat. That's it.
And there we have it. So it's just a little taste of what this project was like. And it was ultimately presented for, I think it was live for 3 days, or available for 3 days as a fundraiser for Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS, and raised a lot of funds for that organization, which was great and gave a lot of visibility to a lot of young TikTok creators, which was also very exciting.
Awesome. I was wondering if you guys could talk about the workflow you used, because I know that this was a really fast turnaround and you were working with a lot of people that were used to just using TikTok, and you were editing, I believe, in Adobe Premiere. And I assume you were working remotely. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think as David talked about, you know, a lot of the performers were put together and given, some of them were given some assets as far as lights and stuff to film certain things, but a lot of them were not actually, and some performers were able to actually film within the TikTok format clips for us to use, and others filmed just using their phone video format. So we ended up getting, you know, scores and scores of just individual short videos from lots of different performers that went into the mix on this, as well as submissions to like dance challenges from TikTok users and other things like that got incorporated into the piece.
Yeah, we did actually do a shoot with the Remy character who was played by Titus Burgess, because he's the main character, he's in it a lot. So David and Lacey did a full green screen shoot with him, so that we were able to like have really good footage of him. But then he's paired with people so much of the time who were just shooting themselves on their phone, that like a lot of our dreams for the things we could do with his backgrounds were sort of unrealizable in the time frame, because he was supposed to be like in the room with other people who shot themselves just in front of a white wall. So it was like, well, I guess they're all in front of a white wall now, even if one is a fake white wall.
It's interesting that there was oh, sorry, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I was just going to say that it really varied, as you might expect, by age, as far as people's technical capabilities. So some of the older cast members, we got really interesting things from them that were harder to deal with. And then some of the younger cast members, like the dancers, were able to film themselves in TikTok and take advantage of the clone filters and things like that.
There was a period in the development of this project, when I say period of development, again, it's like a very short period of time, where we thought we were maybe going to try to make the whole thing on TikTok. And a couple of big challenges with that were that TikTok has a duration limit on like the longest thing you can make. And so Team Music, I think, wisely said it would be very difficult for us to take an hour-long musical and break the entire thing up into logical 1 minute clips, musically, conceptually, narratively, choreographically. And also, as Kate was saying, there's a wide degree of skill levels among actors who we were asking to film themselves on a phone. And so it seemed like it was going to be challenging to train people on how to use TikTok. And so we had a lot of dreams to say, like, in this very short period of time, TikTok has so many abilities to very quickly apply effects and filters that would take a very long time to deal with in a traditional editing platform. So why not use that? But then the amount of time it would take to educate performers on how to do that if they didn't already know how was not super feasible. And I think, you know, this might change over time, like TikTok and apps like it may start to deal with longer form video as they know people are interested in it. Mm-hmm. And we've already seen over the course of the pandemic, many actors who would never have known anything about a camera and lighting and green screens 6 months ago now have, you know, they've acquired home studio setups and they've learned how to be their own DP out of necessity. And so I think, you know, more and more like how to use TikTok and how to edit and how to think like an editor seem like they are things that are coming to everybody.
Yeah.
What were some of the limitations when you were working with TikTok users primarily, but you needed to recreate these things in Premiere or bring in their footage that they might have shot in TikTok into Premiere and having that vertical size and everything like that?
It certainly dictated the layout on a lot of things because of that vertical size in an HD format, you know, final product format. So as we were working with a lot of the video, that was a consideration. And when we were able to request videos from specific performers, there were certain sections where we were able to say, film yourself in landscape, film yourself in portrait, for the people who were giving us footage from their phones versus from TikTok.
Yeah, but I think, and David maybe could speak to this a little bit more, but design-wise, like part of the idea behind this show was to pay homage to TikTok and have it feel like it was a musical produced on TikTok. And the aspect ratio is so much a part of that. This like portrait style thing, and everything is filmed that way. That's how you're used to seeing it. And then suddenly we had to like ram it into an HD 16:9 aspect ratio and figuring out how to make it still feel like it was TikTok, even though the aspect ratio is totally different.
And we really kind of riffed on the duet idea of TikTok, where, you know, one person will perform something, then someone else can perform something that accompanies the first performance, and you can kind of keep going on this chain. And if you use this feature on TikTok, you'll see like one video next to another video, and they can kind of keep going, and they're smaller and smaller and smaller. Heavily popularized by sea shanties somewhat recently. And so we had a lot of scenes where that's sort of how it would work. Like one actor would record their scene, and then another actor would record their scene completely separately, and then they would be stacked next to each other. And then there'd be a third actor who'd be stacked next to them in that way.
I wanted to just add to that, just popping in, Kylie and team, this is great. Because I know that there was a lot of discussion about, at least in the SMPTE world, about the portrait style video. I think there was a vast majority of us that are haters a little bit. But I think it's a good point to that there is this creative aspect to it, that it offers this other option and flexibility of creative storytelling that, you know, people don't really take into account. And I think that that's a great point. There was also a question about what the video format was. And I think you mentioned that it was HD, and people were asking if it was 720p or 1080i or 1080p or 4K.
I mean, this is one of the other things that's always challenging when you do like kind of crowdsourced stuff like this, where, so at the end of the day, we're editing at 1080p 30, streaming online. People are receiving it on whatever device they're receiving it on. So some people might watch it on their TV. Some people might be watching it on a phone. It's actually coming through at 720p or whatever your streaming platform and bandwidth allow. But we're collecting video that come from people's phones. And some people are able to follow the instructions where we say, you need to exactly set up your phone like this. Some people are not able to do that. And video that comes from phones is often some kind of crazy variable bitrate thing. And putting that all together often has lots of challenges where it doesn't actually work very well the way things are meant to work when you just film everything on one type of camera or two types of camera. And so we had various people who created video on their phones that looked amazing, and then you put it into an editing platform and it like completely comes apart and can't be edited without like major transcoding.
And the green screen footage we got of Titus as Remy was 4K, or was that HD?
Yeah. We shot in 4K, so that we only got him for 4 hours. So we're like, well, we better get 2 shots out of every shot. So
yeah, and it was, so the frame rate thing was interesting, but also like, because they would like totally come apart, but also trying to lock 3 different people who shot at variable frame rate to music and to each other was just like this like round robin, like music being like they're not locked, and it's like, well, it's as close as it's gonna get. Hopefully people will just think it's their streaming platform that's making them let's move at a different speed than the audio, because I can't get it any better.
Yeah, there was no time code or click sync on this one, really.
Yeah. 4K, yeah, so 4K meaning, yes, we could get a landscape and portrait shot, or we could just get
I think David froze.
David a little bit. I think he was going to say, meaning we shot him at a medium, but we were able to zoom into more close-up shots and not lose resolution.
Yeah, that was pretty much what we used.
Great. Well, since we're getting more into the Q&A now, let's bring back Darrion as well. And then we can keep these questions going, because I feel like there's some that he would want to lend his insights on as well. We got a couple of questions about the technical workflow for the Ratatouille, the TikTok musical. What led you to choosing Premiere to make the video?
Typical, workflow for us uses the Adobe Suite, and we do a lot of our animation and content creation work in After Effects, and that combined with Premiere and the editing of different film clips in Premiere really just worked for what our existing workflow had been for other projects. So that's why we chose Premiere.
Yeah, most of us for theater, we don't do a ton of like what you would consider straight editing. We do a lot of like motion graphics and things like that. So I think our comfort level is more centered around After Effects. And then to do something like this, we were like, well, let's do Premiere, because then when we want to take stuff into After Effects, we can pull back into Premiere and just talk to each other.
Mm-hmm. Great. Do you know how many different kinds of formats you were working with by chance?
I don't know. It's probably 5 or 6 things that would different formats that when you look at them, they would say they're this, they're this, they're this, or they're this, and that's the number of different things you'd think they were. But under the hood, they were probably maybe twice that in terms of how they're actually encoded and what is actually in there. But everyone's shooting on their phone, so it's kind of like what you get out of phones.
Mm-hmm. And so there were probably, you mentioned there were sound challenges with the variable frame rate and things like that. How did you go about solving them? Did you just lean into the idea that TikTok's not perfect, so this doesn't need to be either, and it can't be?
It's interesting. I think that we kind of tried to sell that as one of the things that we should, lean into for sure. But I think at the same time, everyone felt very much that like, as much as possible, everything needs to feel intentional. And so one of the things we found ourselves doing a lot was like, time remapping each person's performance to bring them into a world where they were, it felt like they were in a scene together. If one person's dialogue didn't perfectly work out with another person's dialogue, then we would try to sneakily make it so. That was one of the things we ended up doing. And sort of embracing the music was another piece of it, where we had this, one of the most kind of fully realized aspects of the production was the music. And as I said, they a full score was created. They hired an orchestra. We actually did a film shoot on real cameras with the orchestra, but even they had to sort of perform in sections because of COVID. So like the string section performed and they all left, and then the harp came in and they performed and then left. So even editing the orchestra music, as Lacey had to deal with very much, was putting together completely separately created pieces of performance and footage to make it feel as much as possible like everyone's responding to each other. And
there were lots and lots of tracking spreadsheets to track the footage.
That actually goes along with another question specifically about your workflow at Ratatouille. It's a tactical question. How do you manage and obtain the media from everyone and then share amongst all of you?
Mm-hmm. So the main way we collected media from performers was Dropbox. There is a feature on Dropbox that allows you to set up basically a submissions folder where the person you're collecting things from they don't even have to have Dropbox. They don't need to join a share. They don't need to do anything, and they can't see the contents of the folder, but they have a place that they can drag and drop a file that then shows up in a folder for other folks. So that was one thing that was sort of like the platform piece of it. And yeah, there were just a lot of documents where we mapped out all of the shots in the show. Like we created a shot list, like anyone would create a shot list, and then kind of subdivided this to hand each actor their shot list that they were responsible for themselves, along with another document that's like, here's your training document of how you need to use your technology, how you need to frame yourself, how you should set up everything. And since we knew our time was short, we said, you know, you need to pick your own best takes, because if you send us 12 takes, we will not be able to review all of them and figure out which one to use. So we were basically like tasking the performers as being their own mini film studio and to wear all the hats of the shoot, and give them a kind of book of like, here's how you do all of those jobs. And then there's one place at the end that you drag your stuff. And then the stuff would get pulled over by us into video edit land and the sound team into audio mix and leveling and cleanup land. And so they would take a pass at everything, fix the audio, send it back to us. And in the meantime, we had started editing. So then we would, you know, replace our clips with the cleaned up clips and keep plowing forward.
Right, yeah. Excellent. It's really interesting to hear you guys talk about how complicated this all was to produce something that started on TikTok and make it into a full musical, because then you look at what Darrion's doing and he's working all inside TikTok and he's expressing these really complicated ideas. So Darrion, I'm wondering if you could talk about a little more about how you use the constraint of TikTok to illustrate these. Do you feel like being constrained to this rectangle and the tools provided is actually beneficial for you to be creative?
Definitely, like I feel there are some constraints by both like the apps, and also I think like sometimes the viewers on TikTok, specifically TikTok, have shorter attention spans. And so your content has to be quick, concise, to the point, and also entertaining. And so I feel like it's very evident in some videos where like it just flops, and then I'll have to like review my videos, like why didn't this video perform well? One, maybe I didn't, maybe the topic is just too complex to convey. Two, maybe I wasn't, I guess like crazy enough. Like maybe there wasn't enough motion. Maybe it's just very like, I'm still, and a lot of my followers are expecting me to do something wild or very farcical. And with TikTok, they have like a lot of great effects, transitions, but I think because most of it is filmed horizontally, spacing sometimes can be an issue. And I think TikTok's working on this, but I think if it was more accessible and they took into consideration of like people who are, I guess like red, green colorblind, to adjust the color in some way. And also like, I'm trying to think, like offer captions, like an automated caption feature. That would be very nice, because in the very beginning, I would get some comments like, oh, can you please caption my videos? Like, I don't really understand what you're saying, or what you're saying is too quick, or you're too fast. And I'm like, okay, yeah. So that would be nice. I mean, it's not too much work to type it out, but in a minute long video where a lot of things are spoken, it would be very nice. But I think those are some of the constraints where if they just made it more accessible for some of the content creators and some of the viewers to see, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really insightful about the accessibility, because they can do that. Traditional TV has so many layers to it, and it can be difficult to create a new standard. Yeah. But TikTok owns the distribution pipeline, so why not?
Mm-hmm.
So I talked about this with all of you separately, but never together. With no gatekeeping to content creation with TikTok, what do you think are some of the biggest opportunities for content creators, either from traditional or non-traditional backgrounds, when they come into short form online video like TikTok?
I think Ratatouille is a perfect example of the ability to collaborate, and how TikTok is set up for people to riff on each other's content really is what created the Ratatouille concept entirely. And I think that's a really strong benefit for the platform that has allowed folks to connect with collaborators that they wouldn't have necessarily otherwise because of geography or whatever else.
Yeah, I think definitely collaboration, right, is huge, where there's this feature called stitching or duetting, and it's where you include someone else's videos into yours, and you can like react to it. And on other social media platforms, you can't really do that. So what's nice about TikTok is like a lot of the humor in TikTok is like being in on an inside joke. Like jokes are just consistently evolving because there's so many layers to it. And some of these jokes are just like stitching or duetting someone's video. Like one of my favorites is this girl, she is just like talking to a camera and you can only see her like her head and chest, and then someone duetted the video and then they are pretending to be like her right shoulder. And then someone's duetting that video and they're pretending to be the torso of the body. So you have like this video, but like a small speck of it is like her head, and then someone's right shoulder, and then someone's like body, and then someone's legs. And so like that is just so easy to like, it's so easy to collaborate and add on to someone else's videos. You can't do that on Instagram, on YouTube, Facebook. You can try, but like you'd have to like really dig and try to go out of your way to understand the different layers of the joke. Whereas TikTok, like this person duetted this person's video and it's included in the caption. So you can easily click the other person's profile and go to the original source of the video. So it's so easy to see like who this person's collaborating with or where this original video came from.
We were just saying earlier tonight that it's really interesting as three content creators who work in a more traditional format and like obsess over every detail being perfect, that TikTok is a much looser form of creating, and it's about like doing something fairly quickly and not obsessing over every detail, which I think is really good practice for a creator, to be able to kill your babies, as we used to say in grad school, terrible term, but like being able to just put something out there and like people see it and they like it or they don't, but like not obsessing over that, I think is really good practice as a creative person.
There's so much of our industries that are based on ownership and secrecy until made public. And, you know, thinking about what Kate is saying about like working quickly and just putting things out there, and what Darrion is saying about stitching and duetting and riffing on someone else's ideas, and what Lacey's saying about collaboration. Like it's this idea of collaboration or of creativity and creation and content creation as something where no single idea like belongs to one person and they're the only person who's ever allowed to use it. And if you want to use it, you better be prepared to like pay or get involved in a legal battle. Imagine how much more interesting things we might see if other industries sort of embrace this idea of we're all trying to make more content that's interesting, as opposed to like, I've got my content, it's mine. I mean, it's sort of challenging to think that way also because, you know, we make our livelihoods from making content. And I think it's just like a sort of potential paradigm shift about what direction that might go in. And I think we also maybe have to just keep our eyes on, like, as Kylie was saying about gatekeeping in, you know, film and Broadway, the kind of people whose work gets picked up and greenlit and produced. It's sometimes you hear these great success stories where like someone came from nowhere and look at this great thing that happened. But most of the time there are like a group of people at any given moment whose work is going to be produced. And on TikTok, there's no one saying who gets to be seen and who doesn't get to be seen. And, you know, with Ratatouille, all these folks, like their work got picked up just because it existed. And I think that, you know, I feel like we should maybe keep our eye on what happens over the next year to 5 years, because I think there's going to be a great pressure from gatekeepers and corporations and such to figure out how to own that stuff and create a gatekeeping process and monetize things that could very quickly take this free-spirited, open environment where anyone can be a creator and turn it into that thing that everything else becomes.
I think, you know, oh, sorry, Kate, go ahead.
I was just going to say that the flip side is also there, like thinking of it from a creator standpoint, like with Ratatouille, all of these folks who had created things online that then the producers and directors decided, okay, like we want these things to be actually a part of this final product and process, like they got included in this thing, and I hope paid for it. I think, I assume paid for it. But in theory, they had put it online and they didn't own it any longer. And there's a possibility that if it had been done a different way, they wouldn't have needed to be paid for it.
Yeah, I think everyone brings up a really great point. I just wanted to kind of put my perspective on that. Is David, earlier you said that it was a format that allowed you to bring theater to the people, which I thought was really a poignant statement, right? We're talking about the creativity and the flexibility, and this reminds me a lot of my favorite time, which was in the 90s, where it was all about independent filmmaking. It was the heyday of independent filmmaking, and there were no rules to it, and you had to be, it was just breakout creativity. And I feel like that's what this is. And I think that's a piece of it that I think is really important to point out, is that it's a kind of a revolutionary format. And I'm not a big TikTok user. And it's a way to bring these, I think, what was traditionally kind of a divided and siloed opportunity in theater, where it was really about class and economics, and you're now bringing it to a wide range of people that are, spanning from 2 years old to wherever, to 80 years old, who knows, right? So I think that's a great thing that you pointed out. It's you bringing this opportunity to everyone, and I'd like to expand on that thought, because I think one of the questions was pointing out that it was so creative and so great. Would you want to do this again? Are you going to do this again? And can you do this again?
I think a piece of the Ratatouille is that it wasn't just an individual person creating it. It was a whole bunch of people organizing it. And I think with the condensed timeline, it wouldn't have been possible without having, the producers handling that side of things and coordinating the orchestra and coordinating the performers. And I have a feeling that if something like this were to be done again, there would be a lot of things that might happen differently, just by virtue of the time. I saw that one of the questions in the Q&A was, we said the timeline was tight, but how tight actually was it? As David mentioned, we got the go-ahead the end of November. I'm not sure where script and orchestra writing happened, but the orchestra filmed maybe second week in December. We filmed Remy, the green screen shoot of Titus, right before Christmas. And then we got all of the footage from the performers basically the day after Christmas, and we had to have it done by the 30th. So it really was a super tight turnaround, especially with all of the content.
Yeah, I was joking that we pulled such a late night that I had to sleep in at the office, which is 5 feet from my bedroom, because I'm editing at home.
That's very good. I really like this idea of democratizing the areas where the areas that have a lot of meaning to you, whether it's theater and performance, Broadway, or science. I feel like all these things really perfectly intersect for SMPTE, which is the intersection of creativity and technology, and trying to enable people to do their best work with the best tools and standards. I'm wondering if, Darrion, if you can iterate on that. Do you feel that, I know you're not the only STEM person on TikTok. I follow a few of them and I love it, even though sometimes I don't remember what mitosis is, man, but it's funny. Can you iterate on if you feel that platforms like this are making science more accessible to underrepresented people?
Oh, hands down, yes. I remember like back in college, like when I told friends, family that I wanted to study theater, like, do you want to become an actor? Like, which I don't know why is even a bad thing, but you want to become an actor and not a doctor or scientist? Like, no, like I'm still focused. I still want to focus on science, but who knows? Like my theater background could help, help me with science in some type of way. And I think TikTok is a good example where not even like having a theater background, but like that has helped me a lot with like, I guess, with like acting and stuff in the videos. But TikTok has been like a really good app to convey science concepts in a different manner, where students are used to watching either like long form videos that are long, monotonous, boring, or reading it in a boring textbook. But to have it explained in a short, concise way that's also like funny and entertaining, I think has changed the whole like educational content game a bit. Not even science. Like I've seen other physicists, mathematicians on TikTok who are explaining all those concepts in a really good way. And when I'm like, dang, like I hated physics in college. Like I wish I had watched your type of content, or you explain it in a very well manner. You explain it in 15 seconds. And I took a whole semester trying to learn this in college and I still don't get it. So I think TikTok has definitely like revolutionized how people learn.
Sorry, Kyle. I just wanted to comment because I don't have TikTok on my phone. I don't do the app. I have people making TikTok videos of me for some reason. And I don't get to see them because I don't know. Anyway, but every time I ask them about TikTok, every time I say, why do you guys love it so much? And one of their first comments that comes out of their mouth is, you have no idea how much I've learned from TikTok. And they're dead serious. They've learned so much on TikTok, and their whole life revolves around like, how do I do this? And they'll just search through TikTok and find a video and be like, oh my God. So that's how you put a trash bag in the trash can.
I'm stuck on my For You page. I'm stuck on cleaning TikTok. And so I'm like, that's how I can clean a shower faster. Okay, like I need to buy these products. Like it really is educational.
Unbelievably educational. I had no idea that I'd been putting trash bags in the trash can the wrong way my entire life. It's amazing.
Yeah, and there are some really soothing TikToks. Like it doesn't have to be complicated for like brands. Like I mentioned, Lush, they have bath bombs and you put them in the bath and they look amazing. And to get that experience, you have to go and buy one and they're like $8 and then you have your bath. But they put these TikToks up of people just doing it and it's like very calming and you can see like 8 or 9 of them. And then it makes you want to take a bath. And it gives this brand love around these things that with very minimal effort on their part to get their products in front of people. And so I feel like there's so much more content that I'm just enjoying for the fun of it and stumbling upon things like you said, like, oh, I didn't know I was flipping a grilled cheese wrong. I didn't know that was possible, but apparently I am. And then you just have a bunch of reaction videos of people trying to flip their grilled cheese the way the person said. And they're just like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like, that is so obvious. I think that the short form aspect of it, the little snippets really is helpful because it feels like that's enough for you to commit it to your memory. It's not like this big, long thing. And real quick, someone in the chat asked about how many submissions. I have TikTok on my phone. I'm not savvy enough to know like how many videos there are per hashtag. It shows views. When I search the Ratatouille hashtag, it says 1.3 billion views of that hashtag. And also for STEM, I searched that and it's 1.7 billion. Ooh, filtered. So it's just an incredible, and I see a couple here that I want to go to right now, but I'm like, okay, I got to actually do this. There's some geology ones. I'm like,
I just wanted to say, like, it's an interesting concept, the idea of submissions, because like in the theater and film world, it's like, oh, I'm like actually sending someone a script or a tape or a headshot. And in this case, it was people like just posting on TikTok saying, here's my submission for Ratatouille the musical. So we have no idea how many there are.
Kind of iterating more on the format being different but not different. Do you think that the short form video, specifically let's talk about TikTok, do you feel like it has its own language, its own like cinematic visual language, or does it borrow mostly from traditional media? Is it creating new visual language for people?
I mean, I guess one thing that I think happens on TikTok is that people perform solo and have to think about how to use space and time to create narrative and shot structure when there's only one person. So sometimes I think, it's about riffing on editing structures and shot structures that we know. And sometimes it's about coming up with like, what's a totally new way that the camera can relate to a person and to space and to time that you would never do if you had a person who's operating the camera and 2 or more people in the scene. I think it's really cool to like see what kinds of things people come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there were certain things that are definitely like in trying to recreate a TikTok, like everything's hard cut. There's a very specific, the bubbles with text in them are very specific. There's certain filters that get used a lot. Looking at like the timing of how some of the filters work. We did a lot trying to recreate that sort of visual language that's very specific. Like what font is that they use in the bubbles? And why and there are a bunch of options, and like why do people choose certain ones for certain things? And there's the whole language in there that, frankly, like I didn't get time to do a deep enough dive to really understand. Maybe Darrion knows more about that.
I actually don't. I want to say yes to the answer, but I cannot think of a good reason. I cannot think of any examples, but
I feel like when I watch TikTok, there's a really big embrace. People like to embrace really, really refined comedic timing and perfectly cut screams. Those are 2 really big things that are used. There's this idea of just giving, it comes from the fact that you only have this small chunk of time, but giving somebody just barely enough to have that comedic reaction, which I think is really interesting, because in other places where you have all the time in the world, you have to think about that more. And I think people probably tend to mess it up more because comedy and cutting comedic timing is really difficult. Well, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that there are some things that have been borrowed that TikTok has really embraced, but it's really become a language that has become recognizable as TikTok now. So whether or not it existed before, like the jump takes and the mashups of stuff, it is very much now specific to TikTok and recognized as such.
Yeah.
So I don't know if it's new necessarily, but it's definitely been refined.
It's a remix. Everything is a remix. Going along with that, question from the audience: what moods or emotional transitions are hard to do with timing constraints of TikTok? Are there any solutions you've seen?
I think that's a Darrion question. Volunteering you.
That's a tough question.
I think ultimately it depends on. Okay, so there are 2 types of videos where one you use like the song, just like an audio where it's like song or like it's an instrumental to add emotional value, and then you make your own content, and then the song adds to the emotion. And then there are other content creators like me who lip sync, and so all the emotion is dependent, or most of the emotion is dependent on how the audio is expressed. And so there are certain transitions that are just commonly used to convey a certain emotion. Like there's the bright light clown filter. I don't know if y'all know that. Like that is like a very silly effect. And so I probably most likely would not use that if I'm trying to convey like a sad video, because people associate that certain effect transition with being silly, being funny. So this question is hard to answer because, like I said, my videos are like lip sync videos, and the emotional content comes from the audio, and just me mimicking the original content of that audio. So I don't know.
I think it's hard to answer because there aren't really any limitations. You can express whatever you want. So you try to think of the limitations and constraints, but there is a way to get across really any mood you want.
Right.
I've definitely seen the full range. That's just my hot take, though.
I think it's an interesting idea, thinking about like the idea of scoring in a traditional film aspect, and then kind of working the opposite way in TikTok, where you're like, oh, I'm going to take this song or this video that has audio that somebody else has created and like create a whole different thing out of it. So you're like starting with the score and then creating something else that is not a music video, right? Like it's just a way to express what you want to express.
Absolutely. Another question I have, this is more for the Ratatouille crew. There are people on here that work on the tools behind the standards, the technology that power media creation. And having worked with TikTok creators and with materials and expectations from people that are users on there, but assembling all this in a professional editing software, what needs to improve in the editing software? What is TikTok doing way better that we need to catch up on as professional media creators?
So, I mean, there are so many things on TikTok. I mean, TikTok's not the only app that this is true of, but there are so many apps that can do amazing things in real time that are driven by facial recognition, scene detection, skeleton tracking, and it happens like from your phone. So like the ability to have three copies of a person in a scene with themselves pretty effectively rotoscoped around each other. Like if you were going to do that without having shot in front of a green screen, in front of a noisy background in an editing platform, it would take you quite a while. And I think many of the filters, the time that it would take to do that with the tools that we have outside of apps, you could spend forever doing that stuff. And so I think, yes, there are certainly, expectation is a big part of it. Like when someone can pick up their phone and they themselves can just make a thing very quickly that an editing platform would take all day to do, then they will expect that editing platform can do that. And you expect that when you watch content, it ought to include things that are better than that, because why would I be watching someone else's content if they can't even do what I can do right now? The flip side of that is that I think a lot of these apps, like it's difficult in an app setting to make a long project where you're trying to manage lots of media and put together different scenes and manage multiple timelines. So if there was some way to bring these two things together where you could like manage a large project, but within that large project, you could have the power that you have from an app, an advanced app, AI-driven app, then that would be a very powerful platform to be able to work in.
Yeah, I think a lot of that, correct me if I'm wrong, is because it takes advantage of the depth camera that's built in. And if there were a way to get high quality video that also captured the input from a depth camera, so you got like not only your high quality video, but also a depth map or point cloud that then could be fed into an editing software where you have like, oh, everything that's more than like this plane behind this person just goes away. And that would be so much easier than shooting someone in front of a green screen.
Yeah, absolutely. It really makes you think a lot about the tools that are just available on your phones. Like I can generate a depth map with my iPhone right now. And so why can't I use that information in Premiere? And what will it take to get us there? So we're coming to the end. I just have a couple more questions for you all. This has been amazing. So much fun. One more question from the audience. How can we support creators who are creating content on TikTok and want to move into more traditional media like film and TV? And do you even see that desire on the platform? Do people just have no interest in TV and they want to stick around on TikTok?
Well, I say you can invite them to like a SMPTE meeting and invite them to be on a panel, and then I guess like offer them a role in a TV or something. I don't know. But well, there is one option on TikTok where you can include like your email, and I've had several casting directors reach out to me just through my email and say like, sorry, TikTok videos, would you be interested? In fact, what's Cal Penn? He has his own show. Cal Penn Improves His Message. He reached out to me and was like, hey, love your TikTok videos. Do you want to be like a guest scientist on an episode about climate change? I was like, okay. So that, I think that's one immediate like thing that I can think of. Just like including your contact information directly on your profile. Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of right now.
I think one thing I'm guessing is when you reach out to people to try to give them opportunities, offer to pay them. I'm guessing with the volume and the democratization, there's also a tendency for people to devalue content that's short or might not look as polished because it's more about the story than the polish. So pay people for their work, whatever the work is, and recognize this as real work.
Oh yeah, I've seen a lot of other content creators get lowballed by other brands, companies, specifically Coldest Water, where they will ask content creators, can you make 20 videos? We'll give you one free bottle. That's it. Like that's the payment. Yes. And I think to some content creators, and I kind of fell into that trap with some brands in the very beginning, like, oh my gosh, like you're gonna offer me like $50 for a video? Of course, like I'll do that. And then after I hired a manager, that's when I realized, oh, like they really lowballed me. And yeah, so definitely I learned to like, value myself and know my self-worth.
Amazing.
Same story as artists everywhere.
Right. So I have one more question for each of you, if you want to take a moment to answer it. What is inspiring you about new forms of media most right now, whether it's TikTok or short form video or interactive displays? I know a lot of you do integrated live performance and technology or something else. What is inspiring you most about new forms of media now and in the future?
I guess I'll jump in and say that the three of us who are here from Ratatouille Project, as you mentioned, we come from live theater, we come from live performance, where the excitement and the energy is about the fact that you're sharing a room, sharing a space with other humans that aren't separated from you by a screen or the internet. And I think, we all have been thinking a lot over this last year about what is the meaning of liveness and how has that changed when we aren't able to share space with people. And technologies that create participation, create immersion, and create a sense of sharing space and a sense of liveness, and redefining what liveness means, and thinking about like, how can it exist in ways that don't depend on our traditional ideas of what live performance means, I think are really exciting. maybe is one small silver lining that might come out of the, it's very difficult last year and a half that we've all been going through.
Nice.
Yeah, I was gonna say something along those lines of like, there's this space that's been created between television and film and theater that is like interactive web performance of some kind. And I think it's it's a really new space that everyone is still figuring out what it is. Like, okay, it's this thing that's mediated by a camera. So does that mean it's film? Does that mean it's television? If it's live, does that mean it's theater? If it's got a mix of those things, like what is it? And I think all of those questions are really exciting and interesting, and finding new ways to bring that sort of interactivity to people who are all over the country is really exciting as a theater artist, because so much of what we do, and part of what's beautiful about it is that it gets experienced in one place in one moment, and it's different every time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lack of democratization to that, which is like, if you do not live in that place, if you cannot pay to be there in that moment, then you never get to see it and you never get to experience it. And finding a way to bring those experiences to more people who are all over the country and all over the world is really exciting.
Yes, definitely. And a part of figuring out that in-between space, like if it's mediated by a camera, how can it be interactive still, and still have that facet of being live and like sharing an experience in a shared space like theater traditionally is, like live performance traditionally is. That's been an exciting question to play with and try to come up with ways to solve.
I think like, as I mentioned earlier, that TikTok does a really good job of fostering collaboration and really encouraging that. And by utilizing like the duetting stitching features, like you're involved with like the inside joke. And I think when I like reflect on a lot of the science content that I've watched before, sometimes like science jokes can be very corny, cheesy, where it's just like, it can be cringy. And TikTok does this really amazing job where you can really throw any educational topic, and if you can do it well and utilize like the inside joke and kind of like twist it, intertwine it with your educational content, you can make it very relatable and enjoyable. Like I mentioned earlier with like physics and math, like those are two subjects I just don't like, but now I like it more because of TikTok. And I think it's because the way that TikTok utilizes its like technology and all the features that they have, it fosters collaboration. It helps you, it adds like another layer of humor, and then it's very inviting to like all these different educational science STEM topics. So I think they've definitely like revolutionized how we learn at home.
Amazing. Great answers. Thank you all so much. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this panel now. So thank you all again. This has been a really insightful panel, and I urge you all to go back to the Eventbrite. I have links so you can find out more about all these people, and they're easily findable on the internet, which is very on brand. So again, thank you for being so open and willing to share this with our audience. Just a couple of quick announcements. A thank you to CView Productions, and again, Julia and Lexi, and to my SMPTE Hollywood section managers. Joanne, thanks for running the show behind the scenes, and to our sponsors. If you are a student on the call, you can get free membership to SMPTE, which is great. If you go to the website, you can click on the membership challenge and figure out how to submit your documentation and get a free membership. And then after that, it's only $15 a year for students, which is pretty awesome. There are also educational webcasts that are available that are, some of them are free, so you can check those out on SMPTE.org. And educational courses, you can see there are some instructor-led courses coming up, And you can also enroll in them now and do a self-directed study. I've done a couple of them. Any science nerds, this is for you. And also the motion imaging journal is online, and this is a great resource. So check that out as well. That comes with your SMPTE membership. So if you haven't been to a SMPTE meeting before, this is the URL and the mission. And we hope to see you again. And you can find us on Facebook. And we're having a lot of online meetings right now. And hopefully we'll find a way to keep connecting with the internet after things start to get back to normal someday. So thank you all again. And I hope to see you on TikTok, sharing and iterating too. Thanks, y'all. Have a lovely evening.